Last weekend we got a new Lord of the Rings movie, so now it's time to rank all seven Middle-earth films from worst to best. In last place is War of the Rohirrim. Now, say what you will about the last two Hobbit movies and the Rings of Power series, but for me, those at least feel like they're in the world of Lord of the Rings. This just feels like someone's fantasy anime that the studio said, well, let's put the Lord of the Rings name on it for the sake of brand recognition. None of the characters in the movie are interesting. The main character is the same type of female lead we've had for like the past 15 years. Girls, I don't want to get married. I want to fight in the war. My dad won't love me like he does my brothers. Like Mulan, Brave. Ugh. Now you can write good female leads, but this is an example of how not to do it. Brandon Sanderson books are a great example of that. Characters like Vin from Mistborn and Shallan from the Stormlight Archives are great female characters, and they work because they actually have flaws and struggles, and their stories have weight. She does not. The plot is also both too long and at the same time not long enough. I feel like they didn't use their time wisely enough to flesh out the characters to make me care about them. As for a series, it could have worked better. For me, this was a very forgettable film. Number six, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Now, Peter Jackson has since gone on record saying that he didn't want to make this movie. He wanted to make The Hobbit as only one or two movies, but the studio mandated that it be a trilogy. But the problem is, there's not enough material in the Hobbit book to make it a trilogy. They took what in the book is about 5 or 10 pages and made that the whole movie. It's just this 3 hour battle, and it gets really tedious after a while, as well as being bogged down with uninteresting side plots that are all over the place. A weak end to the Hobbit trilogy. Number five, An Unexpected Journey. This is a decent enough first entry into the Hobbit trilogy, but if you watch this after having watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, this movie is more or less the same plot beat as Fellowship, except instead of Frodo enthusiastically joining Gandalf on a quest, it's Bilbo reluctantly joining Gandalf on a quest. Now, there's some good repertoire with the dwarves and Bilbo, and the scene with Bilbo and Gollum challenging each other with riddles is great, but overall it's not as strong as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Number four, Desolation of Smaug. This is the best of the Hobbit trilogy. The scene of the dwarves riding down a river in barrels is super fun. Benedict Cumberbatch's Smaug makes a great villain. This one has the best action and the most engaging plot of the Hobbit trilogy. Now, every single movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is a masterpiece, so this is where we might start to disagree. I gave all these movies 5 out of 5, so here we go. Number 3, Fellowship of the Ring. The world building in this movie is fantastic. The first 20 minutes are pretty exposition heavy. It's interesting exposition. It's what Thor the Dark World tried to do, but failed at. The world of Middle Earth is unique, the performances are all fantastic, and it's the classic hero's journey. Number two, The Two Towers. This is where we start to get more involved with the character of Gollum, who is my personal favorite villain in the Lord of the Rings franchise, particularly with how he's attempting to trick Frodo into trusting him, and Sam seeing through his lies, making Sam my favorite character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, with Legolas being a close second. The battles are exciting, the orcs are really sinister and vicious, and the way this film ends has you clamoring for part three. And number one is Return of the King. That means almost every movie that gets nominated for Best Picture is a bleak, nihilistic, pessimistic film that leaves you feeling depressed. So the fact that it was not only nominated for Best Picture, but it won, and it's a fantasy film, is incredible, and it's highly deserved. Every character gets a perfect ending. It's a masterclass in storytelling, characters, and world building, and there's a reason why things like Game of Thrones, along with others, have been trying to replicate its success. Heck, even Warner Brothers is still trying to recreate the success by doing the Amazon show and the recent War of the Rohirrim film. The fact that 20 years later people are still raving about it, this is a perfect trilogy. There's not a single bad entry in this list. And the original Star Wars trilogy has a weak entry with Return of the Jedi. This is a perfect end to a perfect trilogy. It comes in at number one. Go and share your ranking of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films, and I will see you at next time. Bye.